Hey, what's going on? This is Ricardo of the Code 7 Podcast Network, and we are about to get started with round 28 of the Dispatchers Roundtable. But as always, a word from our sponsors.
At InDigital, we know that public safety professionals hold themselves to a high standard. In fact, standard doesn't do it justice. In over 25 years working alongside you, carrying millions of calls over our IP networks, your dedication has inspired us. That's why our ESI net goes beyond industry standards, not only I3 compliant, but designed to adapt to future development for a network you can count on when it matters most. Learn more at indigital.net.
Here in Greenville County, we have 8 different places where a 911 call can be answered.
It is the largest county in South Carolina. It's a challenge.
The type of information that a telecommunicator gets from Radius Plus is location-based technology. You can see where the caller is, if they have a medical issue, if they speak a different language. They're immediately able to text to that caller in their native language. It reduces response times because it immediately gets first responders where they need to be.
Carbine, it's multimedia. You can get text, translate to whatever language, getting away with the legacy equipment and going into a cloud-based solution.
It's the first time in U.S. history that we have an EZNet through cloud-native call handling.
As a police officer, to have the victim go video, that's unheard of.
You're getting upgrades every month, not every year.
To schedule your free Carbine demo, please visit carbine.com/WTT.
If Within the Trenches has ever taught you something, open your eyes to what it is like to be a 911 dispatcher, or has inspired you to become one, then help support us and join our Patreon. Get exclusive bonus content, one-of-a-kind swag, discounts on merchandise, ad-free early access to new episodes, and much more. To join, please visit patreon.com/WTT podcast. And if you're an industry partner, we have something for you as well. And now, for the show.
This is Jordan, and you're listening to the Code 7 Podcast Network.
Warning. This episode contains the 3 A's of podcasting: adult content, adult language, and awesomeness. You've been warned. Yeah, we are back. And again, this is round 28 of the DRT, the Dispatchers Roundtable, and I'm excited for this topic because this topic is something that I was working on for a long time when I was working for InDigital, which is one of the sponsors, and it was basically my baby. I didn't create the platform or anything like that. I assisted with it, but I also was training dispatchers from all over the place, and it was so much fun. So I'm excited to be able to talk about this and share a few different things. And I'm excited to hear what all of you have to say as well, because so far with the posts that I've been putting out, people are saying that they're not using this, or at least that they haven't, that they really don't. And that's where my curiosity lies. So we're going to get into this here. And as always, the Dispatchers Roundtable is sponsored by InDigital as well as Rapid Deploy and Carbine. But this is a Carbine exclusive DRT episode, and also patrons. Thank you so much for everything. I wouldn't be able to do everything that I do if it wasn't for all of you, but especially you that are here now, watching, listening, supporting, sharing, and everything. Thank you so very much. And as I put in the comments already, please make sure to share this broadcast on your feed, also your favorite dispatch page. If you have any questions or comments or anything, please make sure to put them in the comments here, because we're going to be going off of that as well. Looking over here at my notes to see everything else that I have going on. There's so much that is going on already. I mean, last week was a big week. It was National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week, and thank you, all of you, for what you do each and every single day is the most vital piece of public safety. I see Kim jumping in here. Kimmy from South Texas. What is going on? Thank you very much for joining us, and congratulations on the new position. You're going to do Amazing. I know it. This the topic that we're going to be going over today is text to 911, and some of the stuff that we're going to be doing, some of these points, talking points, is what was it like for everyone in the beginning, and maybe share some tips and tricks for text to, but also text from 911, dispatch initiated text from 911, some tips and tricks, also some aha moments, maybe some saves, anything like that. So we're going to be jumping into that, but also the ability to text to 911 on our phone, but not using like the native app. We're talking more so like WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger or Snapchat, anything like that. That's kind of what we're going to be talking about here as well towards the end. But I am going to jump in and introduce my guest today. And first off is my homeboy, Rob Big Mac McMullen, and he McBullen? Sorry, dude. Jacked your name up right there. McMullen, director of Knox County 911 out of Indiana. Here he is.
Dude, say
I
hi,
know.
Reed. Hello.
Hey, what's going on?
One of my dispatchers is getting some ink for the printer, so.
Oh, sweet. Continue on.
Dude, I feel like all the advertisements were like in a movie. It's like I was like all these trailers, and like it's been a while since I've done this, and man,
I know
within the trenches is getting big time. It's like, God, what else can we do? Can we advertise anything else? And why aren't you advertising your swag?
I know. I'm not. I should be. We've got, hats, Daughters of Dispatch hats, all kinds of stuff that is going out there, and they're almost sold out. We can also advertise your Fu Manchu. I mean, that works too.
Yeah. It's kind of, I can't get it straight. I think I need a hair straightener or something. So
that, or some more like beard, like goo or grease or whatever it is, the
yeah,
oil stuff, something like that.
Yeah, I didn't have anything really scheduled.
Roxy jumping in here as well.
What's up, Roxy?
Oh, my bad. Sorry.
Yeah, it's just you. So I was like, I know that
it's
I
just
didn't
me.
Like it was just you. So I mean, tomorrow I've got a commissioner's meeting. I've got other stuff. So I might have to dress up a little bit more. So, but that's all right.
Nice. Well,
Andy's an Avs fan. Way to go. Go Avalanche.
There you go. Yeah. My next guest here is Mr. Jason Klink, and he is the one of the customer success managers over at Carbine. Hey,
you guys are a tough act to follow.
You're gonna step up your game, Jason. You're gonna step up your game, man.
I just saw how many more improvements I can make to my own personal podcast just watching that intro.
Well, there you go, dude.
No. Like,
awesome.
We're gonna have to have movie phone type shit.
Right. Well, this is going to be good, and thank you both for joining here right now. And now that I have both of my guests here, before they get into their intros, let's hear the intro music.
Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, welcome to the Dispatchers Roundtable.
Yeah, that's what awesome. I'm talking about. Throw in that fade out. That's what I'm talking about. Gotta love that.
Okay.
One of these days, I'm going to take it off of the soundboard that I have, and I'll have it in the actual video so I don't have to keep jumping off of it so fast. It's so abrupt of an ending for the DRT, because that intro is actually for open mic. So if I would have let it go, the open mic intro would come in. So I always have to turn it off really fast, and then it's my face there like it's always fun.
You've been doing this. You've been doing this for a little bit. It's time to upgrade. I mean, you've got the 17 hours of intros you can and movie trailers. It's time to upgrade.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I have to add that one in there. I'll get it done. It'll be good. So let's since Jason, you just came on, let's start with you with an introduction. Where do you come from? What's your background for those who are watching and listening?
Oh, well, we can take a walk down memory lane. So I have been in public safety worked in public safety for just about 25 years. I was 25 years in the fire service. Whereas I was fire chief in 05 and 06 of my home department. In parallel to that, I worked 19 years at the 911 Center in Syracuse, New York. After 19 years, I I had had enough of being in the building and doing that part of the job, and went over to the dark side and uh, obtained employment with a vendor. And then in the last year, I landed at Carbine, and it was probably one of the best moves I've ever made. And the ability to help shape change and provide for this industry has been just fantastic. So I am a
Nice.
customer success manager with the team at Carbine, and I am located in the Northeast. So I take care of all of our customers, potential customers up here in New York, New England, and beyond.
Awesome, man. Very, very nice. Welcome, welcome. This is going to
Thank
be
you.
good. Ryan Chambers jumping in here on LinkedIn. What's up, brother? Welcome, welcome. And now, Rob, Big Mac McMullen. I said your
So
last name right this time.
I got it right. Thanks. And it's not like we just met.
I know,
So
right?
like Jason, I'm working on, this is my 24th year in public safety. Been in dispatch and on the road as a police officer. This is my third center. I am currently the director at Knox County Central Dispatch in Vincennes, Indiana. It's a great little center. Have a lot of good folks, and this is cool. And I'm going to start a poll. Okay, everybody who's watching, Ricardo's the Dispatchers Roundtable T-shirt logo, or the logo in the top right. I can't get right there.
There you go.
See that?
Yes, that.
Okay, that logo. Who doesn't think that logo would be an awesome T-shirt that Ricardo could start selling? Okay, let's get some feedback in the comments, because
My my screen printer,
okay.
my printing
Sorry.
press is back there, so we'll see
Yeah.
what people say.
So anyway, yeah, that's me. I've been president of National NINA, past president and all that good stuff, and also president of Indiana NINA. So currently I'm just chilling here and trying to get some notoriety on Ricardo's podcast.
But also have some impact and create change there in the center that you're at currently, because there's a lot of things that were not going on at the time when you got there
Yeah.
that you needed to kind of bring them in. So this is good that we're going to be
Yeah.
talking about this, because from your perspective, especially with text to 911 and from 911, presenting this and having people use it more and more. I mean, this is a big thing. So I'm happy to have you both here so that we can talk about this. So let's kind of go over the summary. I added it into the comments already for the audience, and what I had put out there was, a few years back, people seem to be concerned about text to 911. That's all we would hear about is what is going to happen. What is going to happen? Why are people so afraid of this? And when we started putting it out there and all, I say we, but the company that I used to work for, we were doing everything in our power to make sure that people knew that it wasn't going to be that big of a deal, because a lot of centers were saying that, we're going to have to hire another person just to do that alone. But it turned out that it wasn't a big deal. It ended up not being a big deal at all. And maybe that's why when I had put this out there throughout the social media network, people were saying, well, we kind of use it. We don't use it a lot. There's not a lot that comes in. So this is going to be good to have this discussion. So I want to start with Jason here with this. For text to 911, this entire concept, this whole this technology, I mean, what was it like for you in the beginning? What's your experience with it?
So as we all know, change in the public safety is painful and slow to come by, and
Right.
change is very scary. And it's more and more technology. Now, mind you, I started at 911 when the phone calls were predominantly the wall phone and very few cell phones.
Yeah.
Which migrated into now, which is all cell phone and an occasional wall phone every now and again. So when we get introduced with a technology like text to 911, first the skeptics come out of the woodwork, and how could this benefit us? And then it's doing the training and providing the information to say, yes, this is how it would benefit us. So then, we had, in my old center, had invested into GEM 911 and using that. And they put a PR blast out to the public that the 911 center can now accept text messages through this new text messaging platform. And at first, it was a lot of nothing, a lot of BS that came across the text. But we did have the opportunity to really make a difference for people that they couldn't speak on the phone for whatever reason. That was our first question. Anytime we got a text 911 call, the first canned message you send them is, do you have the ability to call 911 at this time? And if the answer was no, then okay, let's try to figure out what's going on here, because with that system, you couldn't tell where they were until they told you where they were. And it was better to try to get them on the phone than text with them. But it was a very slow, long-winded answer short. It was a very slow process to start getting used to having that extra technology to be able to use when a caller wasn't in a position to have a verbal conversation.
Mhm. Now, for you guys during that time, did you have the system on every single console, or was there one specific one where if somebody was sitting there at the time doing everything that they were doing anyway, they were also doing that as well?
No, we were fortunate enough to have it at every call taking position to
Mhm.
where if we'd get that audible tone when we got a text message, that everybody had the opportunity to pick up and answer the text message. So yeah, we didn't designate like one supervisor or one call taker to answer. We did actually. I take that back. We did in the beginning. There was always one call taker assigned that was strictly a call taker that was assigned to answer the text to 911. But if they were on the phone and couldn't get to it, then it rang enough to where somebody else would pick up. So we did have that designation on the daily roster of you were in charge of picking up text calls or texts that came in. But for all intents and purposes, anybody, if they were on phones, could pick up a text.
Awesome. Now, Rob, over to you. What was your experience like in the beginning? I also see Mandy over here saying we have it, but we haven't used it too much. It tends to be accidental for the most part, which I remember seeing a lot of reports. When I was working within digital, um, and seeing just some of those printouts, and a lot of people saying, "I was just testing it. I just wanted to see if it worked. I heard that it worked, but I wasn't sure," and so on and so on. And Amanda from Louisiana 911, hello, welcome, welcome. So Rob, what was your experience like in the beginning with texting?
So, being from Indiana and a digital customer, I was actually in my old center one of the first 10 counties in the state of Indiana that actually rolled out the text to and text from 911. So we've had it. I've been using texting for about the last 8 years now. I remember when it was first coming in and we were talking about it with Ricardo being at a digital and me being in a larger county. We were always like, it's not a big deal. It's not going to, because since we had been using it for quite some time before anybody else was, it's like, it's not a big deal. People don't need to worry about it. So it wasn't like Jason said, it wasn't that big of, and we had been pushing, it wasn't that big a deal. We had, two or three. I remember the first text to 911 that we received was a caller that had reported a broken down vehicle in Terre Haute near the interstate. So that was just the, hey, just let you know there's a broken down vehicle. That was the very first text to 911 that we received. But it wasn't, again, it wasn't that big a deal. Everybody was scared. Thought that it was going to be so crazy, and we're going to have hundreds upon hundreds of text 911, and even hundreds upon hundreds of people, ordering pizzas or calling it or doing however it was, and then even scared of the text lingo, the BRBs and the trying to use a short text because of that, and that was never a case. We never had that instance of a case. And I attribute a lot of that because of when we were rolling out, smartphones really become very popular and everybody did away with the QWERTY keyboard. So they actually had a real keyboard, so we didn't have to worry about that. But, that was one thing that we were in our SOPs that we made for it. We always put in there, do not use the texting lingo, try to spell everything out. But again, we didn't have any issues with it. It come on, and we have a few and have here and there, but it's nothing exciting.
Now,
Maybe it's exciting, but
I put a question out to the audience and this is something I want to ask the both of you as well. But for the use of text 911, or even from whichever, just the texting in general, did any of those policies change? Out of everything that was going on, did your policies change? And before you answer, I want to I do want to mention, as you're talking about how the keyboard was taken away. I love my smartphone, but when like the BlackBerry phone was out, man, that was the best.
Yeah.
That one was really good. That I dug that, but I do love my iPhone. So for you guys, for either one of you, and like I said, I asked the audience here too. Well, Mandy says here we don't have an actual policy yet. Okay, so we can talk on this as well. But Rob, let's start with you. Did any
Our,
of those policies and procedures change when it
well,
came to texting?
our policy always was when you call 911 or if you get a 911 hang up, if if there was nobody there, we would send an officer out, try to find this and, call them back. Well, we all know that if you're calling 911 or if you're calling your 911 center calling somebody, and it's because it's going to show up XX government or whatever. The people aren't going to answer because one, they're like, "What the hell's the government calling me for? What's the sheriff's department or what's this person calling me for? I don't need to. I don't need that. I'm not going to do this." So we changed our policy to where if you had a 911 hang up, we would text, and this is for cellular devices. We would text them back first and say, "Hey, this is, blank county 911. We received an accidental text, or we received a text from your phone. Is everything okay?" And we went from the 2 out of 10 people that would respond when you call them to now we went from 8 out of 10 people to respond back and say, "Oh, I'm sorry, my kid was using the phone," or I accidentally did it, or it was like that. So that was our main policy change to where we would text people back instead of calling them back because we would get so much more of a response, a better response, and it cut down on our 911 hangups, or I'm sorry, it didn't cut down on our 911 hangups, but it went back for our cut down like kind of our abandons and unable to locate type of calls.
Yeah, and I think I do remember that when working, that was one of the things that people were sharing a lot, that the state of Indiana, a few other states, because they had that ability to initiate a text from 911, they were changing their policies because they were finding that a lot more people were answering over text than over the phone. And I don't know why that is. I think some people were saying that they felt more anonymous, like, they wouldn't be able to find you, but we got your phone number. We can probably find you. But but people were answering more, and that's why it was so much better. And so, Jason, what about you? Were there any like policies, procedures, or anything that ended up changing when texting really started coming in?
Yeah, so I come from a rather large center. I mean,
Hmm.
we had in the building we had 125 personnel, so it was very a policy driven center
Hmm.
for
Yeah.
all operations. So introducing text to 911, of course, generated a policy. The one thing that we didn't use it for was to text back uninitiated. So if we got a text that said "I need help," and you started to reply with either the canned messages or whatever you were sending back, and there was no further replies, we were prompted per policy to call the phone and see, if you could raise them that way.
Hmm.
It was kind of a tricky play because we had another policy that if you were talking on the phone and somebody involved in a physical domestic or verbal domestic, and they disconnected, we were not to call that back because you didn't want to instigate the other party involved in the domestic. We would just let the responding officers know that the parties involved in the domestic disconnected. So it was one policy. Just anytime we made a policy for operations, it tried to fit into weave it into the current operations so it made sense. But that's one thing we didn't not have a part of as our normal day-to-day operations is to actually text back to the number uninitiated if we got a 911 or mobile 911 hang-up call.
Hmm. I'm looking here in the comments, and so I've got one here that says we always respond to a text to ask if they have an emergency, and then another one here says since it has been in our area for the last several years, I never had one text to 911 that wasn't a legit thing. It is definitely a tool that the community and our centers needed. I think, and I might be wrong here, but I think a lot of centers, and the both of you can jump on this as well. But I think one of the biggest achievements when it comes to text to 911 or text from 911 or text for 911, combining the both of them, that the reason a lot of people didn't have issues um, with like prank texters or anything like that is because of public education is what I'm getting at. The public education that the centers put out there saying this isn't to take the place of an actual phone call. This is like a last thing, an emergency situation where like if you're hiding, you don't want someone to hear you, calling. You can actually text. And I
Right.
think that's what really helped out with a lot of this.
Yeah, for sure. I think that that the public education piece goes a long way. Uh, there used to be, I don't know as much as there is now, but there used to be that respect for the public safety agency, the respect for 911 to listen. You don't want to prevent somebody else from getting help in their emergency, and this is part of our tool to help with emergencies. So only use it when you have an emergency and are unable to make that phone call.
Mhm.
So I can see, how much that public education piece really played a factor in trying to limit the crank call or prank text that may have otherwise occurred.
The state of Indiana spent buku money when we went live with the outbound and both inbound texting, to where we could really push that out and do the text if you, or call if you can, text if you can. They did the whole media blitz, which I think really has helped tremendously for us.
Mhm. Yeah, it really put in perspective for people, and I know that when I would go to even just the gas station when I was still working with the other company, and still even so now, if someone sees like a public safety shirt I'm wearing or something, I'll talk about it. But I would tell them about text to 911, and some folks would say, really, like that's a real thing, that's not like something just from TV. I'm like, no, you can actually do this. And as long as the area has it, but luckily for the state of Indiana, the entire state you can, and some of the surrounding agencies outside of the state that are on the border, they have that ability too. So you would tell them about it, and I know a lot of people would say, well, why would you ever have to text to 911? I wouldn't want to do that. I would want to be on the phone. And then I would give that example of, well, what if somebody broke into your home and you were hiding under the bed or in the closet? Would you want them to hear you talking? And they would go, aha. Like one guy specifically at the gas station did that. He was like, aha, no, I get it. I get it now. Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. That would be cool. I was like, well, that's what it's all about, man, is to make sure everyone is safe. But there are some things that you still have to do, and you have to give your location right away and all this other stuff. Things are a lot different now, of course, than when it started, because there's more technology that's added in there. Now there's a question in here in the comments that says, what if the caller is unable/unwilling to speak aloud and the center doesn't have text to 911 set up? Can the Peace app still communicate with the caller via instant messaging? That's for either one of you, but I'll start with Jason.
Well, with the changes in technology, I mean, text to 911 was really the start of that ability to communicate without verbal, and with the next generation 911 technology that's become available, the ability to communicate is further extended. And what I mean by that is with the technology that we have available on the platforms at Carbine, we have the ability to send a caller a link and they can chat with the call taker, just like a WhatsApp, you know. And it really has paid dividends since a lot of the centers have used this technology in the situations where the caller couldn't speak. And I'll give you one of my favorite stories to tell.
Mm-hmm.
So Stark County, Ohio is 911 is one of my customers, one of the customers for Carbine. And they had a situation in the last few years that a female was at home, her husband was intoxicated and angry. Her husband grabs a shotgun and forces her into bed and wouldn't let her leave the bedroom while he was pointing the shotgun at her. As drunk as he was, he finally falls asleep. She takes her phone and makes a call to 911 but doesn't speak and asking for help, and she couldn't talk. So the call taker said, I'm going to send you a link and so I can chat with you without you having to speak. It's chatting back and forth. The call taker finds out the husband's holding her hostage in the bedroom with the shotgun. He's intoxicated, but he had fallen asleep. She's scared for her life. So they said, okay, we're going to send the police. The police gets there. They send the cavalry. And the call taker texts back, listen, the police are right outside the door. When I count to 3, I'm going to have you run out and the police are going to run in. So they count down 3, 2, 1. She goes out, bolts out the door. Police officers come in the door, apprehend the husband, put him into custody, and no one gets shot. And, having that ability to have that conversation, realistically saved her life. It helped mitigate the situation without a loss of life. And that's really the name of the game. And it doesn't have to be that dramatic. It doesn't have to be that extensive. One of my favorite examples I get is you got somebody standing in a bar and they're in a fight or they're having a problem and you can't hear them and they can't hear you. Why not send them a link to chat back and forth? And now you can get the information you need to get them the help that you need, other than somebody asking for help and you don't know why.
Right.
So
and those, yeah,
I
go
was
ahead.
going to say, that technology really is, with that ability, either text 911 or using a chat option, a chat feature, really just helps 911 telecommunicators do their job that much better.
Yeah, and it's something that at least when I was in dispatch, I remember we used to talk about certain things like, I wonder what it's going to be like in the future. Like, are we going to be able to do this? Are we going to be able to do that? And I think also towards the end of my dispatching career was when the Google Glass was just getting put out there. They're doing promos with it. And I remember one promo specifically showed 911 dispatcher, the call taker, and they had Google Glass on and they were viewing someone who was going through a medical emergency. And we kept talking about that, like, oh man, I wonder, is it going to be like that? Like, what else is going to happen? But, like this, what you're talking about and having that technology to be able to instant message and such, that's something that a while ago we used to think, oh, it's like stuff that you would see in a TV show. That's not going to happen, but it's here and it's been here and it's been happening. So it's awesome to hear saves like that. Rob, how about you? Any saves or tips or tricks or anything when you're talking about to 911, text to 911?
Not really. We have been very fortunate to where we've not had any massive saves. In my old center, we did have a report of a kind of a kidnapping type thing, and we were able to follow that into, we kind of kept on the line for going across the interstate, and we're able to get. They were reporting that they were drunk driving and they were trying to report it, but we called the next county to kind of intercept them, but they wouldn't do anything because they didn't want to deal with it. So, but over my years of using it, we've not had to deal with any of the, or we've not had, I should say, not had a deal, but we've not had any of the fantastic saves or that. We use it, we use it on a daily basis, but we don't have a real in depth with it.
Awesome. Now, I want to answer Amanda here, the Bobcat story. If it's the one that I'm thinking, yes, there's a video that you or somebody else sent where the Bobcat was being chased. It was a car chase, I think it was. If that's the one, then yes, I do remember it. And then we've got another comment in here that says, as a dispatcher, I hated not being able to ping disconnected phone numbers. That was definitely, the non-initialized phones. Now, before we get to the from 911 portion, I want to run through a scenario here really quick. And Rob, I'm going to ask you to help me with this. you are going to read the red bubbles,
Okay.
and I'll read the blue bubbles, and then Jason, you can just spectate at the moment to watch us go through this, because this is something that we did at a bunch of different conferences. And the reason we did this, the session was called A Day in the Life of Text to 911. The reason we were going around doing this is because we wanted to show people the types of text sessions that were coming in, that people were dealing with, so that they could get an example of it and not be so nervous about this when it was going on. So this is a session from 2016. So there's a part in there where it talked about how we were unable to transfer, but again, that was in 2016. Now you can transfer and do a bunch of different things. So I want to go ahead and put this in, and let me make sure I've got this right. Okay, so for the audience, you can comment on this as well as we're going through it, but we're going to go through this, and then we'll go into the text from 911 portion, and then continue on as we're going through this roundtable. And again, any comments, questions, or even your own stories, anything like that, please definitely put that in the comments, and we will get to them. So I'm going to go ahead and share the screen here. And all right, so here it is. So remember, you're the red bubble.
I'm red. Okay.
Yep.
Is text to 911 available?
Yes. Do you have an emergency?
Yes, I'm carpooling with a reckless driver. He needs to be pulled over.
What is your location?
I-70 eastbound.
I need a landmark.
Working on it. Mile marker 98.
Keep sending me mile markers. I've dispatched a unit.
My name is Scared Shitless. If they pull him over, don't tell him I called. Green Ford Expedition with PA tags, or Pennsylvania if you don't understand.
I will advise the unit.
Mile marker 102.2.
Is there something else going on?
No, nothing else. I'm just sick of arguing about his reckless driving. I was a 911 operator for 10 years in Maryland, and I thought this might get some sense into him.
I understand. Our unit is behind you.
Mile marker 106.2.
Our unit is not going to catch up. I have another unit that's ahead of you.
I think we just left your county.
I can't transfer a text, but I have a Henry County unit responding.
We just entered Henry County.
I have an officer 2 miles ahead. What's your speed?
I think over 100. He is harmless, just a total idiot.
Are there any weapons in the car?
No. Mile marker 122.
Henry unit is confirmed at mile marker 121.
We just got stopped.
Okay. I'm going to disconnect.
Thanks so much. We're fine.
You're welcome.
Tell the officer thanks.
And then the session ends. So just a little backstory here. So this session started at 10:37 and ended at 11:05. So there was about 28 minutes there, and 2 counties were involved. But this allowed the PSAP to improve their critical interagency skills. So again, this was something that we did back in 2016, and we were going around and doing all of these. There's another one in here that I might share a little bit later, but this was something that Rob and I did, and he always had the best voices. So that's why I always had him doing that part there. That was good. And again, I wanted to show this only because this was something for Text to 911 that we were doing so that people would be comfortable, with some examples of some of the stuff that comes in. I want to go to Jason really quick. What'd you think of that text session? Because these sessions, they're all real. They were ones that were submitted to us so that we could read them going back and forth.
all I could think of is in my old center that would have been a 3-minute text, and it would have been a point of information for the police, and it would have ended the text session.
Yeah, and
Reckless driver going down I-70. Here's the vehicle description. Catch up to it if you can. That would have been the point of information.
And this one lasted 28 minutes. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a lot of fun. Again, that's just one of the ones that that we were sharing and wanted to let people know that this is some of the stuff that you might end up dealing with. So I want to see
those our little text day in the life of Text 901 World Tour. Those were a lot of fun, and we'd always have packed sessions, and we went on for we do it an hour, and we did get a lot of people to understand that Text 901 was not going to be a big deal. They were so scared about it, and then when we were going through and saying this is the type of stuff you're going to get or you could get, they were like, oh my god, that's it's a lot better than what they thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
So this one I'm gonna go ahead and do this next one because it's actually a short one. It's not that long. So we'll do this and then we'll go into the text from 911 portion of this as we're going along. So and those in the audience, again, if you have any comments or questions, please throw them in there as well, because I want to know what you think of some of these sessions and also to compare to some of the ones that you've dealt with. So here's this one right here. It's scared lady and a bad dude outside her house. I didn't do the titles for these. I don't remember who did, but
Mark did them.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
Mark
that's right. My old boss, the president of the company.
Boss.
Yeah. So here we go.
Does this work? There is a guy outside my house.
What is your address?
123 Scary Place.
Scary.
I think this was a lady. Okay,
I think this is the right one. Can you call 911?
No, I'm watching him from the side window.
Are you alone?
Are you trying to hit on me? Yes, my husband is at home from work. He works thirds.
What does he look like? Not your husband.
My husband? It's too dark to tell. He's going to all the houses, walking.
Does he have a weapon you can see?
He has something in his arms and on his back.
I have a unit nearby on the way.
He's getting close to my front door. He walked right by my house. He went to the neighbors.
Stay in a safe place. The officer is nearby.
I see a car come down the street. The guy went to the police car. The car's leaving, and the guy's walking to the house across the street. The police didn't arrest him. What's going on? Are you still there?
He's delivering newspapers.
Oh. Okay, thanks. I didn't know they still did that.
Right.
Yeah, he's filling in for the regular.
Okay, never mind. You want to come over?
And that's where that one ends right there. So that was one of the other ones that was really funny to do that a lot of people enjoyed. But again, just showing an example of text to 911 and how people were using it, some of the situations that were happening as well. And that one just is so funny because you're right. People don't know that newspaper is still getting delivered. Jason, what did you think of that one?
So I mean, that's just
He's like, okay.
But it's so it's so applicable because those things happen. You got somebody walking around the wee hours of the day or night, and it's the paper delivery guy, but the neighbor doesn't know because they probably don't get their paper delivered. So,
right. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. And I remember there was a few people in the audience as well saying the same thing. They were saying, I probably would have done the same thing because who thinks about that? Everything is online, or you get newsletters or whatever to your phone and such, or in your email. So yeah,
Yes.
that was one of the things as well that went out there. So let's look at text from 911, and this is a 911 initiated texting from initiating from dispatch to the caller, and a lot of the times this would happen for butt dials, 911 hangups, and all of that. So Rob, let's start with you. What has your experience been like with text from 911, and for the audience as well, if you use text from 911, what has been your experience?
Well, as I said earlier, we were one of the first states in the nation that had the text from 901. It was really cool. We had far more texts from 911 than we had text to 911 because of our policy change to where if we received a butt dial or a hang up, we would text them back and we'd initiate the text. Um, Again, we had great response for it. People would usually always respond back and always thank us for what we were doing and getting back with them. Um, it's just been a lot of easier. It's a lot easier for us to call them back and kind of get closure on a call as opposed to having try to contact the caller and there wasn't anything else we could ever do because we could either find them or get somebody out to them or we would just get the response that we needed back from them.
Excellent. What about you, Jason? What was your experience been with text from 911, or even anything that you've heard as well?
So, text from 911. This is again new technology that's slow to evolve, and even in my large in the center I worked in, we didn't do a lot of text from 911. There was alerts that could go out for like an Amber Alert, something like that. We had reverse 911 to be able to make the put a sphere, geographical sphere on a map and call out when there was a dangerous situation, stay in your home, that kind of thing. But again, that had to evolve from using home phone information, home phone data to we finally identified that it was making 20 phone calls because nobody had home phones anymore. So it's tapping into the cell phone companies to get the cell phone data to make reverse 911 more applicable in those dangerous situations. So it's a tool that is really, it's out there, and if I said it once, I said 100 times, that 911 centers across the country have barely scratched the surface of the technology that's available to them. Either they don't know that's there, they can't budget for it, or both. So, having this opportunity to have this platform to be able to discuss these technologies in order for people to get the education on what's available to them is huge, because it helps do the job that much more proficiently, efficiently, and better.
Right.
Yeah. Go ahead, Ricardo.
Oh, I was just going to say, when thinking about text from 911, there's a lot of tips and tricks out there. There's a lot of people who've been thinking outside of the box when using it this way. So I got a couple that I want to mention. So just the first example, a director that I know out of Indiana, they had a big storm that went through. So there's always trees, wires, all kinds of stuff that's down. What they ended up doing for that is they initiated a text from 911 session, and they ended up sending the text, initiating it with the head of like the road commission, and they just kept that session open. So they were just sending that person the locations of where those trees and wires were, and they would then forward that text to the rest of their folks to be able to do it that way, and they would just kept the session going and kept it open for that entire time, which was a really cool thing for them to do. Another thing that I remember something happening, and it sounded like a fluke until I tested it myself, and it actually worked. So there was the issue that has always been, the 911 prefix, the NSI phones, and the cell phones that can only call 911, right? You can't call it back. So there was a story that had come out of Indiana where someone had called 911 on an NSI phone, and they said, if you and it was a domestic situation, and they said, if we get disconnected, try to call this one specific phone number back to see if you can get a hold of me. So dispatch said okay, and they're going through the call, and the phone did disconnect, and so they had that extra phone number, right? They tried to call that phone number, and it didn't work. They couldn't get through. So what they did was they initiated a text from 911, and they got a hold of them. Now, the reason this worked is because they were using an app on their smartphone that was Wi-Fi enabled, that was kind of basically like Google Voice. So you get Google Voice, and it gives you like a real local phone number, right? So because it was on Wi-Fi, because it was a real local phone number, they were able to initiate that text from 911 and get a hold of that person on a phone that could only call 911. But because it was over Wi-Fi, it worked.
Right.
So it was one of the most amazing things to hear about, but then to test it, it and it worked. I was telling people all over the place, like, this is something that could happen. So, make sure to think outside the box, listen to the callers and stuff. If they have anything like this to happen, you're still able to get a hold of them and get help to them. And if I remember correctly, the spouse ended up getting arrested. Spouse didn't even know anything was going on. One of the coolest things. It was pretty awesome. So there's that text from 911, those kind of aha moments and saves there that can happen. And again, it seemed like a fluke at first, but it worked.
We were talking about the numbers of text to 911 and from 911. So I'm in a fairly small center, and we don't have a whole lot of not a whole lot of uses for the and that sounds wrong, but there's not a lot of people that use text to 911 around here. But we went live with it in this county. It looks like in July, maybe August of probably later in 2014. But since 2014 through today at 2:45 p.m., we've only had 177 texts to 911. So if people are still worried about it, and especially small areas, that it's going to overwhelm them, believe me, it's not. 171 in about 8 years is crazy numbers. And from 911, where we have initiated text to 911, and most of those are the butt dials or 911 hangups or whatever they are, we've had 1,485 of those. So,
Nice.
and before I got here, and I took over this job in late 2019, not the dispatchers here hardly ever used it at all. They just didn't. They didn't care for it. They didn't understand it or anything like that. So I come in and educated them and did what we really needed to do, and our numbers have increased tremendously. So again, if you're in the small agencies and still worrying about this, there's no need to worry about it, because it's not. You don't have to hire extra people. You don't have to hire a dedicated call taker or text taker or text sender, whatever it is. You don't have to do that. It's not going to overwhelm you. Not going to. And they had a question here, Ricardo, about would you texting with 901 be a better way to engage callers that are in their 20s or 30s who are more accustomed to testing the talking? I'll kind of speak on that. Is we thought that was going to be a big deal too, with the younger crowd we're going to be making a lot of text to 911 or text from 911, and we really found out that that's not really what it is. It's pretty much anybody. It was the age ranges were kind of all over the place. So I don't think that texting to 911 is ever going to be a better way to engage your citizens, because you always want them we'd always want to encourage them to call 911 over texting 911, just because with being a call taker and a dispatcher and whatever you're going to call yourself, you cannot overlook your skills, because in a texting conversation, you can't pick up the sarcasm, or you can't, the background noises or whatever else is going on in the call. that you're still always going to have in a text or in a regular 911 call, because that stuff you can't detect that in a text. You can't detect the person's personality or hear the fear in their voice that you can on a regular phone call. So some things can be overlooked when you get the text to 911, and it's just not always, it's just not always the best way to do it. So you always, so I still, you have to worry about, or you have to try to engage in a call to 911 or from 911 as opposed to texting. Texting is always going to be a secondary device or secondary use. We always want voice first.
And I have to agree with Rob that yes, we have a lot of technology and we have, instant information at our fingertips, and
Right.
a majority of the population has gotten very used to texting. But 911 has always been a phone call, and technology is yet to overtake that 911 phone call centric type industry. So if you need help, everybody's always been taught to dial those three numbers, and they have for decades.
Right.
So technology is yet to take that over. Is what I think.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Jason. 100%. It's everybody still, they still think that texting to 901 is space age stuff. So they're not even accustomed to it. So you still really want and everybody's used to calling 901. So we still need to really push that.
For sure.
Yep.
As we go into the wrap up of this episode, which is crazy that it's already going on an hour. It doesn't even feel like it's been an hour that we've been talking about this, but it's been a good conversation.
Yes.
So I threw a question out there to the audience, and I want to throw it to the both of you, but also add something on top of that. So the question was, why do you think the chatter about texting has kind of faded? What has changed? But adding to that as well, we're looking towards the future, not even so much the future. Some of them might be doing it now. They're testing it, and we just don't know. But the ability to text 911, not just from your native app on your smartphone, but from apps like WhatsApp or Snapchat or Facebook Messenger. Like, what does that look like? What are the things that need to go into that as well? Because I'm sure there's a lot that's going to end up going into that. I would be more afraid about. Not so much afraid, but I guess concerned a little bit with some of those applications being able to get to 911. But also, people are on those applications so much that maybe, I don't know, more people will actually reach out for help if they need it. So, Rob, let's start with you. Like, why do you think things have changed? What has changed about texting? Why has the talk about it kind of faded a little bit? I just want to read this here really quick from Mandy. She says, I think it's faded because the advertising of it has faded too. So, I mean, that's definitely, one of the things there.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It does seem that, we were back 5, 6, 7 years ago, we were all about text to 901, text to 901. That was constantly like every other, communication or every other word from a PSAP or a director or a technology company that was involved with 901 we were really pushing text to 901. And it was, very young in the texting to 901. So you only had certain states or certain counties that were doing it. Now it is, so prevalent. More and more counties come on every day with it, or states, or however it is. It's just, we still try to advertise and you still try to do that, but I think a lot of it is because it was so prevalent in the day because everybody was so scared of it. They were absolutely scared that it was going to take forever and do so much and scare people. And because of you and I, Ricardo, at doing our world tour,
Yeah.
people learned that it was not scary. It wasn't that big a deal, and it was not going to take over their world, and they needed to worry about it. So it's just, I think it's just, and like Mandy said, the advertisement has gone away. It did kind of ramp up again in college campuses here in Indiana a couple of years ago because they were really trying to push that in the college campuses to text to 901 to the college campus PSAPs. But we just, it's we've just kind of moved on to the next technology. I would say we're moving on to other things, and back to the apps. I don't even want to know. Get into that stuff. We've got so much. We're always not one's always behind anyway.
Yeah.
And everybody's always trying to develop the next thing, and we just can't keep up with it anyway. So I'm just going to put my head in the sand. No, I'm just teasing. I am all about technology. I am one of the most, I want all the good, cool technology and all the cool shit here in my center. But it's just, some of that stuff is scary because they're doing it on a daily basis. And like, hey, whoa, calm down. We've got to perfect what we've got going on now before we start pushing in other shit.
Right. What about you, Jason? Why do you think some of the talk has faded? And when we're looking at these other apps that are, that might have the ability to get a hold of 911, what are your thoughts?
I mean, Rob's 100% spot on, and what Mandy said about the advertising is faded. I think once an agency, an 911 center takes on text 911 and they do their initial PR blast, that's where it begins and ends.
Mhm.
Really, they may put it on a website or put it out on social every now and again, but really that's kind of where it begins and ends. It's just another tool for the 911 telecommunicators to use. So unless you're consistently putting out there that these are the tools available to you in case of emergency, it's tough for people to remember that, so it's not going to get used.
Right.
I think future wise, man, there's there's a lot that could help the industry, and there's a lot that may not help the industry so well. I think what we do at Carbine is definitely helping the industry. I think you're going to see a lot more with AI and automation that's going to help the industry. I think it's going to be a very heavy lift for Facebook, Snapchat, WhatsApp to be able to provide the level of service in times of an emergency that a 911 center can provide. So if they're a third party mediator and somebody asking for help, it just complicates the ability to get the right people in the right place at the right time.
Yeah,
it's a very heavy lift for those non-emergency, non-first responder type businesses, apps, whatever you want to call them, to be able to make that engagement.
Absolutely right. Well, thank you both very, very much for being on this round. This was an excellent round of the DRT, the Dispatchers Roundtable. And to the audience, thank you so much as well for joining us and being in the comments. This is going to be available immediately after we're off the air for people to be able to watch and share and continue asking those questions and getting into more and more of these topics. Jason, how can people get a hold of you, but also find out more about Carbine and what you all do, social media, email, all that good stuff?
Yeah, so carbine.com is the easiest way to look at the platforms and products and services that we make available to the public safety industry. If you feel free to reach out to me at any point, it's Jason K as in Clink at carbine.com. Carbine's all over social media. I'm all over social media, so feel free to hit me up there, Facebook, Instagram, or even Twitter. But I'd be happy to discuss any of the technology that's available out there to 911 centers. There's no commitment to a conversation. If you're looking for information, I'd be happy to help.
Awesome. Thank you so very much. And Rob, how can people get a hold of you? Especially, if anyone is looking for more information and how you and your center, have your policies and procedures for texting or just how it works, all of it. How can they get a hold of you?
Well, you can go back to any of the Within the Trenches podcasts and probably, no, I'm just teasing. I've been on a lot of those, but my email is rmcmullen at knoxcounty.in.gov. You can reach out. I'm sure Ricardo will have that posted someplace if he would, and just with slang with Jason's. But feel free to reach out if you have any questions about text to 911 or anything else, or want to be a dispatcher in my center because I do have an opening. So hey, come on in.
There you go. Very nice. Well, thank you both once again. And I will be right back here with you in just one moment. Thank you all once again for joining us here in the DRT, the Dispatchers Roundtable for round 28. Our topic today was text to 911, text from 911. how it was in the beginning, where we're at, and where it's going in the future. Thank you again so very much. This episode was sponsored by Indigital Rapid Deploy as well as Carbine, and this was a Carbine exclusive DRT episode. A big shout out, as always, to patrons. Thank you so very much for everything. Make sure to share this broadcast. It's going to be all out there. You can see this on Facebook as well as LinkedIn Live, YouTube, and Twitter. And for patrons, a perk for them only is an audio version of all the DRT episodes as well as Open Mic Live. So make sure to check that out. If you have any comments, questions, or you want to be a guest on the show, or if you have a topic that you would like to put out there for the DRT, please email that to us, and that'll be wttpodcast@gmail.com. Any bonus content, you can check us out and support us on Patreon. That is patreon.com/WTT podcast. Again, this can be seen on Facebook, LinkedIn, as well as YouTube and Twitter. And then for the flagship show Within the Trenches podcast, you can listen 24/7 on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, your favorite podcasting app, and withinthetrenches.net. Have a good one, everyone, and we will see you in the next one.